Huh. Am I the only one with a sense of deja vu here? What's going on, everybody? It's Aurora YJ here, coming at you with a brand new video for December 2021. We're in the holiday season, and with the holiday season comes more generic YouTuber content. I know I say that all the time, but yeah, it's true. I don't know why you guys still watch this. Just go watch someone else. Jokes aside, a lot of you guys really liked my last tier list, so much so that it's at 14,000 views right now, and I gained over 200 something subscribers because of it, which was absolutely mind-boggling. But anyways, some of you didn't like my last tier list, actually. In fact, I believe at least 51 of you bothered to dislike, which I really want to fix that, and I know that I got a lot of constructive criticism, and just criticism in general, not so constructive, in the comments of the last one, and I did miss a few things about some decks. I got some things incorrect, and I want to make things right in this video, because today I'm coming at you with the competitive tier list for December 2021. Now, there's going to be almost, like, in terms of the rules, it's the exact same as my last tier list. We have Tier 1, which are the best decks, Tier 1.5, which don't quite match up, but are still up there and are going to see a lot of representation and stuff. Tier 2, which you might be able to see is like a surprise underdog, and then Rogue, which you might see here and there, but probably aren't going to do too much, or just aren't really that worth it this format. And so, without further ado, I don't want to keep you guys waiting anymore. Let's go ahead and get into my picks for the competitive tier list for December 2021. So to start off with, we have Dinosaur as per usual, and it sucks, but I still gotta put him in the Rogue category, because with one misc, the deck really just has problems keeping up with the rest of the decks, because it really just dies to one hand trap, to be honest, because Dinosaur as a deck has no extenders unless you're playing Gilasaurus, but even then it doesn't really do anything, because they don't have like any archetypal link monsters or anything like that. And also, people realize that if you hand trap the graveyard at literally any capacity, Skullmeister, Ash, you know, DD Crow even, stuff like that, there's really nothing much Dinosaur can do to come back from that. However, keep in mind that Burst of Destiny did give us Small World, which is starting to see a lot more play in Dinosaur, and while it doesn't bump it up to tier 2 or anything, it is still a very nice card to have to boost the consistency, because funnily enough, you can do funny things like Banish Gamma, Banish Baby, Search Misc. Yeah, you can do that. The only sin is that Baby and Ovi have the same defense, which sucks, but regardless, Dinosaur, unfortunately, my favorite deck of all time, is still in Rogue. Hopefully next ban list next month, we can see 2 or 3 misc. I don't know, I feel like it could happen. Next up is Dogmatika, Invoked, Shaddoll, and I know I'm usually super nice to this deck, however, it's not seeing as much representation as I had expected and even hoped, and also it's not doing as hot as it used to, and so I'm actually going to put this in the start of tier 1.5 instead of tier 1, because a lot of decks right now are able to easily blast through something like a single Winda, not to mention Mechaba itself isn't really too much of a threat. The big thing about the deck was its consistency and its potential to grind. However, with everyone running like Chalice, Dark Ruler, Droplet, stuff like that right now, Dogmatika Invoked Shaddoll isn't too much of a threat as it used to be. Like I said, Winda, it kind of just dies to all those cards I just mentioned. And so, for that, I'm going to put Dogmatika Invoked Shaddoll in tier 1.5 for now. Also, I do know that you apparently want to play Brave Token in here now. Correct me if I'm wrong. I heard somewhere about that. But apparently you play, like, all 4 or something. I don't know, dude. But anyways, Dogmatika Invoked Shaddoll is going to be staying in tier 1.5, and probably be there for a little bit until we move into a bit more of a hand trap heavy format. Next up, we have Sword Soul, and I couldn't give too accurate of descriptions for these two decks beforehand. However, I can confidently say that Sword Soul and Floowandereeze can kind of be solidified in their places. And so I'm going to go ahead and put Sword Soul as our first tier 1 deck. I believe I put it in tier 1 in my last list as well because I was confident about it. But now I've solidified it as tier 1 because Sword Soul, it really has nice consistency. You know, 1.5 card combos are really nice. Plus the fact that you can use the 10E cards for nice swarming, playing through hand traps, all sorts of stuff like that. And then also, people found out that Arch Nemesis Protoss is a hell of a card. Like, I'm pretty sure I had it in my deck list on stream when I was first playing the deck, and I was like, it didn't come up that often, but it's a really good card. Locking your opponent out of summoning a specific attribute is kinda good, I heard. And so Sword Soul, until that card gets addressed, Sword Soul's probably going to be one of the best decks of the format, definitely in the top 3, and so it's going to be staying up here for at least a good while. Also, Chang Ying's still a good card, Baronet, it can also extend through hand traps with things like Longmyon, and really the only thing you have to stop this fully is something like Token Collector, and so Sword Soul is definitely staying in tier 1 for now. Tell me what you guys think about it in the comments, though, because I know a lot of people are on the Copium train for it, and I want to hear all of y'all's opinions, so... but my opinion, personally, though, is that it is tier 1. Next up, we have Cyber Dragon, and even with something like Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer coming out to help the deck, I really feel like it's still not enough to shine, and so I'm going to keep Cyber Dragon in the rogue category like last time. Unfortunately, it just doesn't do too much, even though it can OTK in certain situations. It's just way too fragile, and it can brick a lot, and so Cyber Dragon probably needs a bit more support if it wants to go back up to tier 2 or something like that, but for now, it's really just kind of lackluster. So here we have something that I actually have a really significant new outlook on, right? Because a lot of people have been really generous with Altergeist and been putting it in tier 2 or even tier 1.5, and I actually kept putting it in Rogue, but now I can finally put it in tier 2 because with Brothers of Legend coming out this month, I believe, either the middle or the end of the month, we are finally getting Altergeist Pukri. And I know there's 2 other cards coming out, Fiji Alert, something like that, and then they're like Link 4, which, okay, they're not that great, honestly, but we're finally getting Pukri. And Pukri genuinely takes the deck and makes it super, super good because, say you open something like Malusik, Pukri, and then any trap card. You know, like literally any of them, it doesn't really matter. Basically, the key idea is that instead of going Malusik and then going into Almirage or Link Kariba or whatever, you can go normal Malusik and then link the Malusik and a Pukri in your hand to a Hextia. Malusik triggers, add your Multi-Faker, you set your trap, and probably more traps because you're playing Altergeist. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if Pukri can add itself back after you just use it for Link material. I think it has to already be engraved, but I don't know. But basically, the entire point is that you go into Hextia, search your Multi-Faker, set trap cards, and pass. And then your opponent does something, you activate your trap cards, or you do it in standby or whatever. You special Multi-Faker, and then you special Silk to Hextia's zone. And so basically, you have a bounce with Silk, you have your trap cards, and you have a Hextia spell and trap negate, which is really nice right now to do things like Lightning Storm. And so basically, the deck gets an extra free negate, and then also it's free Link fodder in terms of trying to go for a kill later on, because everyone knows 3 Hextia is really, really nice to have for an OTK. And so basically, Altergeist just got like a massive boost right now, and it makes me really happy. I actually really do like Altergeist, despite what some people have said about me because I keep putting it in Rogue. But I'm probably going to pick up a core myself just in case if Pukri itself isn't too expensive, because I kind of want to get back into control decks again. And instead of playing Dogmatika, Invoked, Shaddoll, I kind of want to just play Altergeist because the core is like $10. And so basically, Altergeist is finally back up in tier 2, at least in my eyes. And tell me what you guys think about it in the comments below. Next up is Madolche, and I'm going to put it in tier 2. I believe in my last tier list I put it in Rogue, but I can put it in tier 2 now because it did win the regionals over in Europe, and also the fact that Small World makes this deck really, really nice. Like, it doesn't make it tier 1 or anything, however, it does fix a lot of problems the deck had in terms of bricking and stuff, because while I personally wouldn't just play like the one-ofs for Small World or like the one-ofs for Crossout and stuff, I would say you can get rid of things like your Orange Light using Small World, and then you can literally just search your Mageline, which is a 1-card combo, and I believe it's Nibiru proof, and so it's kind of good. Like, it's so much consistency for the deck when it really, really needed it, because one of the biggest problems with Madolche was bricking. And so Small World fixes the biggest problem of the deck, and so now I can make some decent boards. Also, Glass Souffle is really good right now, being able to shuffle things back from the graveyard. It really hurts like the Tri-Brigade matchup and stuff. And so, and you can also shuffle back the Destiny Hero stuff, I just remembered, and make them brick on it, which is really funny. But regardless, Madolche is in a lot better of a spot now than it was. And again, it did win the regionals over in Europe, and so, you know, I kind of got to give it some merit there. But again, tell me, like, this is another situation. Tell me what you think of the deck in the comments below. Do you think it's actually viable with Small World, or do you think it's just kind of like one of those underdog situations like Prank Kids was when it first came out? So next up, we have Drytron, and unfortunately, and by unfortunately, I mean fortunately, because I don't really like playing against this deck, I'm actually going to put Drytron down in the tier 1.5 category. I believe I had it in tier 1 last time. However, Drytron's really just fallen out a lot in terms of representation, and also it is a lot more prone to hand traps and stuff. However, it does still have access to stuff like Phoenix Enforcer and Dragoon, and also it can kind of still 2-card combo. That's kind of good. And so Drytron's going to sit in the nice tier 1.5 category, even though there is a lot of ways to get rid of Ultimateness right now. Because, like, the best boards I've seen are, like, IP, Fafnir, Ultimateness with, like, 3 to 4 negates, and then, like, Dragoon or DPE. And so that's not really, like, the craziest board, especially with things like Dark Ruler and Chalice and all that running around right now. And so for those reasons, Drytron's going to be in tier 1.5, and honestly, I think after next ban list, if it gets slapped on the wrist again by banning something like Eva or Ben 10, the deck might just completely fall out of relevance, which I'd be fine with. It's had a little bit of time in the spotlight, and honestly, I'm kind of sick of it. And so, Drytron, you can stay here. You can go down to Rogue. I really don't care. Sayonara. So next up, we have Eldlich variants, and just like last list, I'm going to go ahead and put Eldlich in tier 1.5, under Dogmatika, Invoked, Shaddoll, but above Drytron. And see, a lot of people are actually removing mass back removal right now. There's mainly still things like Harpies, obviously, yes, but more people are playing things like Droplet, Dark Ruler, Chalice, Imperm, all that kind of stuff on the side. And they're also playing things like Imp Order, and Anti-Spell, which this deck really doesn't care about. Same with, like, Judgment, right? And so, Eldlich is in a very great spot right now, and you can play it with different engines and things. I'm pretty sure you play it with Brave Token when Brave Token comes out. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to get as many things wrong in this list as I did last time. And so that's my apologies there. Eldlich is in a pretty nice spot right now. You can play it with so many different things. You can play it with Invoked. You can play it with Zombie World stuff. You can play it with all sorts of different things. I've actually seen lists where you play it with Evil Twin, which was really funny to me. But regardless, Eldlich can do a lot of different things, and also Eldlich himself is really nice. Like, being able to send cards on the field is really good. I believe it still targets. I don't think it's that broken, but it is a send instead of a destroy. And so that can out things like DPE, which is really funny. And so Eldlich is going to stay in the tier 1.5 slot. I believe it is a very solid engine and deck on its own right now. Next up is Floowandereeze, and I was a bit too nice to this deck last list because I really wanted my my analysis of it when it first came out and was first revealed to be accurate, but this deck really isn't doing anything right now. Like, the deck is incredibly fragile to the point where they have to Book of Moon their own things to avoid hand traps like Imperm. And that's honestly really unfortunate because I really wanted, like, I had high hopes for this deck, you know? But the problem is that you can just put your things in defense, because I forgot Empin only skill drains attack position monsters. And so you just summon your things in defense, except for Link monsters, and you just win. And, like, your Link monsters you can just use to beat over the Empin. So, honestly, this deck really doesn't do too much right now. The only thing stopping me from putting it in Rogue, honestly, is the fact that we are getting Wing Requital in Brothers of Legend. Wing Requital is incredibly solid in this deck. It's one of the better things coming out for the deck. They were revealed around the same time. And it also helps Lyrilusc, but we'll get there in a minute. It's like all the way over here. But they are getting that card, which kind of helps them out, helps them play through hand traps just a little bit. However, it really doesn't help them as a whole for the deck. Like, it doesn't stop them from being incredibly fragile. Maybe when they get their new card, like I believe in Battle of Chaos, then it'll be a lot better. Might go back up to tier 1.5, but for now, it's going to be on the lower end of tier 2 because Empin on its own isn't that scary, and the barrier statue can be outed by, like, anything. Next, we have Sky Striker, and I'm angry. I'm mad that I have to put it in tier 2. And here's why. So basically, Sky Striker players found out that you can play Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer in there because it outs itself from the main board, or the main monster zone, and it specials itself back for a lot of recursion, and it pops things, and yeah, it has like a 60% win rate on YGO-Scope. Who decided to let this deck come back? Why? Come on, man. Let the deck die. I mean, I can't knock it down, really. There's a good amount of representation for it right now, and it's doing pretty decent. However, with Importer still being around, this deck can't really climb up any higher, and so I'm going to put it above Madolche, but I feel like Altergeist is going to be a way better control deck, so Sky Striker is going to be in tier 2, and it just makes me so mad. I hate this deck so much. But, yep, Sky Striker, Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, it does things, and so I'm going to put it here in tier 2 for now. Next up is Tri-Brigade, and I'm pretty sure all of you know Tri-Brigade is still the best deck. It's probably going to be the best deck for a good long time, unless next month we get the final nail in the coffin form. I don't know, because funnily enough, a lot of Tri-lists are already bumping down to 1 Shurig and or 1 Revolt, and so if you put it to 1, then it's not really going to do too much to the deck, especially 1 Revolt. Most of them are only playing 1 Revolt now, which is really funny. Bird Up doesn't even play Revolt, and they only play 1 Shurig, and so really hitting either won't do too much. And so if they really want to hurt this deck, they'll have to hit something like Fractal. And so for now, Tri-Brigade is still going to retain its status as the strongest deck. Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer makes the pure build really good, along with the Rescue Cat reprint making it more accessible. And then there's also things like the Melfi variant, which is basically just pop cards in your opponent's field fest. Bird Up, obviously, I would like to say is the best deck in the format. And then so many other different builds. You can play fucking Ojama Tri-Brigade, dude. Like, Tri-Brigade just works so many different times with so many different decks. And so Tri-Brigade's probably going to stay as the best deck for a very long time. And again, I think I said this last list, but I don't really mind that, actually. I really do enjoy Tri-Brigade as a deck, even though it is kind of boring sometimes. However, I am based in Beast Pilled now. I do play Bird Up, and so I'm kind of biased, but if you guys still really like Tri-Brigade, tell me in the comments below. If you're bored of it, tell me in the comments below. I'm totally not trying to farm engagement or anything. But regardless, Tri-Brigade's going to stay at the best deck for a good while, and I don't think there's anything we can really do about it. Next up, we have Virtual World, and I'm going to keep it at the lower part of Tier 1. I think I had it at Tier 1.5 on the last list, but I kind of underestimated the deck, and forgive me if I'm incorrect when I say I was wrong last list when I said Small World was good in this deck. I like that was back when I thought Small World you could share multiple things. However, you can only share one thing common among them with Small World, and so I messed it up a little bit there. And I'm sorry. Tell me if it does still work some way, like with hand traps or something. But I believe it doesn't. However, the deck itself is still incredibly strong, even though there's no new support revealed on the horizon, because I mean, it's just Extender Fest. Like, you can just keep drawing into extenders and then activating the extenders and then just hitting a bunch of different things. And while it is a bit fragile, they have found a way to stop Nibiru by getting Crystal Wing out on their 4th or 5th summon, which is really nice for them. And then they do have access to, like I said, a lot of different extenders, a lot of Foolish, a lot of Searching, a lot of Specialing, so many different things. And then also Shen Shen is still a very good card right now. It shuts down, like, Sword Soul for the most part, Tri-Brigade, Eldlich, Drytron. It shuts down a lot of different things. Not to mention, Invoked Kaliga exists still and is probably one of the greatest floodgates the game has ever seen. But again, we are still seeing things like Chalice, keep that in mind. However, even if you can out their monsters, you still have to deal with a Chuchi, which on its own might be able to interrupt you to the point of not being able to kill them or break their board enough, because Chuchi's a good card. If you're staring down a board of Kaliga, Crystal Wing, Chuchi, and maybe even a Shen Shen, if you're really unlucky and you don't stop them, then you're probably going to be in for a really bad time. And so Virtual World is in the Tier 1 slot on the lower end for the most part. It's definitely not in top 3. However, I would say it's in top 5 and is something you should watch out for. Next up, we have Prank Kids, and for the first time in like 2 years, we're going to be putting Prank Kids in the Rogue category. This is just like back when it first came out. Prank Kids was always a Rogue deck, but it's been in the top cut for so long now, and I'm glad to finally put it back down to Rogue because I was getting kind of bored of it. But with one Meow Meow, the deck really does struggle because you have to commit your resources into searching your pranks back, or not back, but searching your pranks so you can put the Meow Meow back, which also really sucks because that means you only get one Regeki on your opponent's turn with the Battle Butler, and you want to be really conservative with your resources. And so the deck's a lot slower than it was, and it loses a lot of power because it really needs to get that Meow Meow back. Also, it is still a very hand trap susceptible one-card combo deck. If it doesn't open, you know, Pranks or Poly, if they still play Poly, because some of them don't. it kind of has a bad time right now in this format, because even if they do get their Battle Butler out, it's like you just chain Chalice or whatever if they do keep the Meow Meow Engrave. And so overall, the deck really just isn't as powerful as it used to be. However, it's still probably going to snag you a few wins at your locals maybe, and you might see it here and there. However, it is definitely not what it used to be. Next up is Earth Machine, and I think I put it tier 2 last list, but I think that was even too generous because Earth Machine doesn't do anything, guys. And I know I'm going to get a lot more people in my comments like I did last time saying, oh, Earth Machine's underestimated, or I'm sorry, underestimated. But apparently Earth Machine's best going first end board is Anger Knuckle, and then Dora with Daracrane under it. And the thing is, it's like, what does that do? So you got a quick effect pop, and you got a 4K guy that's unaffected once. And so, okay, die to an Angry Turtle or a Moth, chain Chalice, chain Imperm, chain so many different things. Like, genuinely, that's not really going to do anything right now. And I heard a bunch of people say, oh, the entire point of the deck is to grind with Anger Knuckle. Grinding doesn't matter if you're fucking dead. Because if you can't constantly interrupt your opponent and prevent them from killing you, you're gonna die no matter how hard you can quote-unquote grind. And so, really, you're just gonna have a bad time if you're playing Earth Machine as a going first deck. OTK, it's a bit different. However, you will need to be playing something like Droplet if you want to both break your opponent's board and OTK, because right now we are in a very heavy break my board format. And so, you're gonna have to commit way too many resources for something like Droplet. And so unless you can really bank on Dark Ruler, break the opponent's board, and then sit on the door with a Daracrane, if you can do that and win, props to you, but I really don't feel like, even with Ruin Force coming out, Ruin Force having come out in Burst of Destiny, I really don't feel like the deck can still do too much. I feel like it's better for OTKing. However, if you want to OTK with a machine deck, I highly just recommend Cyber Dragon instead. Like, just play the better machine deck. Sorry, Earth Machine players, but I really don't feel like your deck is very good right now. Next up, we have Hero, and I think I put it in tier 2 last list, which was a bit too generous in my opinion, because right now a lot of decks are playing things like Nibiru. And so, I'm going to put it above Earth Machine because it's a bit less fragile to other cards. However, it is still really nice if you can, like, get the stuff off. But Nibiru is still a very, very hard card for this deck to deal with. Not to mention, you have things like Dark Ruler that you have to deal with, and then you get locked into heroes, which there's a lot of really good hero cards in the extra deck, don't get me wrong. You got things like Phoenix Enforcer, you got, what's it called? Absolute Zero. You got Dark Law, obviously. Dark Law is still an absolutely stupid card. However, Nibiru is still very strong, and also Dark Ruler exists, Droplet exists, Chalice exists, a lot of different things exist. However, if you can get your end board to resolve and your opponent can't break it, or stop you from getting to it, they're probably going to have a really hard time, because again, Dark Law on its own is really, really good. Banish a card from hand after your opponent searches, and it's a macro Cosmos for only your opponent? Sign me up. Not to mention all the new Destiny hero cards that came out. Not just Phoenix Enforcer, but also things like Denier, which is a once per turn just special itself back for free from Grave, if I recall correctly, or from Banish, I don't remember. It's been a little bit since I faced against heroes, okay? It's been like 2 weeks. But Hero right now is in a really solid spot. However, I wouldn't put it in tier 2 right now because of all the board breaking cards and Nibiru, because its best end board, if it does get stopped, is a rock. Like, it really has a hard time extending past Nibiru. And so, for those reasons, I'm going to have to keep it in Rogue, but I will put it above Earth Machine, so Hero players, rejoice! Next up, we have Evil Twin / Live Twin, and I'm going to be nice and generous. I'm going to put it right under Altergeist after Brothers of Legend, because I feel like Evil Twin is super slept on. I think I put it in 1.5 last list, and while I don't think it's that good, actually, but genuinely, the deck is a very solid sleeper tier 2 deck, because it's one card combo like Prank Kids, but I would argue better. Because the thing is, it's like, it's a one card combo that can get Ashed or Imperm, sure, right? But unlike Prank Kids, they have access to extenders a lot more consistently, because you gotta think, you play 3 extenders, you play 2 Frost usually, and 1 Treat. And then you have 3 Sunny Snitch to search those, and then you have 3 Secret Password to search the Sunny Snitch. And so if you open one of the regular Kiss Kill or Leela, then you have like 9 different cards to have an extender if you get hand trapped. And so they're going to need more than one hand trap to stop you 90% of the time. Not to mention this deck can sit on back row really nicely. They can also run the Salamangreat and stuff like that. And then also, the big girl from Versa Destiny, Trouble Sunny, is really, really nice. It's finally a good boss monster for the deck. She's 3,300, so she's almost as big as Tyranno. Like, let that sink in. Tyranno is a hell of a boss monster. This card's almost as big as it. Not to mention that on your opponent's turn, you can tribute her, which avoids things like Imperm, and you special your 2 girls from Graveback. And what that does is that not only gets you a draw on your opponent's turn, but that also gets you a pop, which admittedly I believe does target. However, it is still a pop regardless. And then on your turn, you can banish it from grave, dump the evenly matched girl from your main deck, which is also really nice. It makes your opponent have to have like 2 cards on summon, I believe. And you can summon it from hand or grave by tributing the links. But you also get to non-target send a card on the field to the graveyard, if I believe. I think that's how that works. I think it's non-targeting. But that's actually really, really nice removal. Not to mention it has access to things like access code really easily. You know, things like the Unchained Link 4. Nightmare Unicorn is really easy to access, especially with things like IP. The Underworld Goddess, it really has access to a lot of nice extra deck toolbox things. And then it does run out of resources pretty fast. However, you have really easy access to things like Avarice. And Avarice just lets you reset almost your entire deck with this deck. And so it's very, very solid indeed, and so I really hope a lot more people get into the deck, because I'm very excited to see what it can do, and if it can get a few tops here and there. Alright, so you guys probably saw the thumbnail, and we're really excited to see where I place this, and I'm going to put Phantom Knights between Sword Soul and Virtual World. Now hear me out, I did ask on Twitter if people thought Phantom Knights was better than Sword Soul, and I have had more people say that Phantom Knights is better. However, I do feel like, right now, at least in this very current format, a deck like Phantom Knights might die a little bit easier to board-breaking cards than something like Sword Soul. And I know that sounds really weird to say, because yeah, if you get Dark Ruler, you still have your Fog Blade, or Fog Blades plural. It really depends on what your hand's looking like, if you open Wing or not. But both decks are really, really solid. And I do believe that Phantom Knights is absolutely incredible right now, and I feel really bad for putting it in tier 1.5, especially after I played against it, and it played through Nibiru like it didn't exist, which was really funny. But I feel like Sword Soul right now is better because Fogblade is very, very good. However, I feel like a card like Sword Soul Blackout is just better right now. Especially with things like Cheng Ying, if they can protect their Cheng Ying. Blackout, pop 2 cards, including Cheng Ying. Cheng Ying protect itself, and then Cheng Ying trigger to banish a card in your opponent's field and grave. And so, very solid, both of them are. And Phantom Knights is going to be probably better once Brave Token comes out. However, I do feel like Sword Soul is just slightly better, but Phantom Knights is definitely top 3 decks right now. I'd argue that the top 3 currently are Tri-Brigade, Sword Soul, and Phantom Knights. And you can probably interswap these, but for my personal list, I'm going to put it just under. They're like almost neck and neck. But tell me if you think so in the comments below. I'm probably going to get a lot of Phantom Knights fanboys, and that's perfectly fine because the deck is really cool, and I really like Tour Guide. So yeah, until Brave Token comes out, it's probably going to be in top 3. When Brave Token comes out, it might be the top 1. I don't know, but that's up to you to decide. Next up, we have Pure Lyrilusc. I'm actually going to put it just over Floowandereeze right now, or Floowandereeze or whatever, because, again, Wing Requital is coming out in Brothers of Legend, right? And Wing Requital single-handedly, as someone who's playtested with it back when I played Pure Birds, and I thought Wing Requital was coming in Versa Destiny, it definitely makes the deck a lot better. You can play through things like Nibiru a lot more, and other hand traps as well. You know, things like Imperm, Ash, stuff like that. And also, they're finally getting Bird Strike in Brothers of Legend. And while I admit Dark Ruler is kind of better, if your opponent doesn't have any Omni Negates on board, if you can bait it out, Bird Strike is better because it has the very, very low maintenance cost of literally just controlling a Lyrilusc and it's a Dark Ruler that can be responded to, but again, just bait the Omni Negate if they have one, because most decks are only shitting out like one or no Omni Negates right now. And so, and it doesn't prevent your opponent from taking damage, unlike Dark Ruler. And so you can easily OTK through stuff like that. Not to mention Harpy's Featherstorm is still a card. Normal Summon Calamity's good game. Like, this deck can go first or second very, very well. The best end board going first, I've usually been able to make stuff like Ensemble, Assembled, and Draco Future with some back row like Imperm Set or an Ash in hand. Back when I played Pure, admittedly, Bird Up is better. However, I will say that Pure Lyrilusc should not be underestimated at all, and you might see it here and there at your locals. Next up is Adamancipator, and I'm gonna put this above Floowandereeze as well, because I feel like Adamancipator is also super slept on right now, because people forget that it spams the board really fast, but it doesn't lock you into anything. You are not locked into rocks, earths, anything like that. Adamancipator can get free bodies on board for no reason. Not to mention with cards like Parallel Exceed and Gallant Granite, you can literally normal summon Ash Blossom and make a really stupid board. I literally normaled Ash Blossom in one hand, and my RNG was like it literally allowed me to make 2 Nibs in hand, Dragite, Appaloosa, I believe a Raptite with a Wind Engrave, and 2 Kawaki Mairu Guardians on field. All from normal summoning Ash Blossom with Parallel Exceed in hand. Genuinely, Parallel Exceed makes the deck really, really nice, and a really cool thing is because it doesn't lock you into anything, that end board could have been a Scythe lock, because you can easily just go Dagda, set your Scythe, and then make Verte summon Phoenix Enforcer, and then, you know, go ahead and make the Phoenix Enforcer Scythe lock, my bad. And then you can also have things like Dragite for an Omni Negate, Appaloosa, the Kawaki Mairus, Raptite, all sorts of stuff like that. And so overall, I feel like Adamancipator is a really slept-on combo deck. It's also a really simple freeform combo deck, and so if you're looking for a freeform, non-linear combo deck, I would totally recommend checking it out, and maybe we'll get Block Dragon back someday, but I highly doubt it. But even without Block Dragon, the deck is still incredibly solid, even if it was the best deck to never see a relevant tournament play. And so I'm going to put Adamancipator in the low parts of Tier 2, just above Floowandereeze, because it's really cool. Alright, so put your torches and pitchforks down, because I'm on Dragon Link again. And last list, I did put it in Tier 2, towards the top, and a lot of people didn't like that. I feel like most of my dislikes are from me putting Dragon Link in Tier 2. And so I'm gonna be nice this time, and I'm gonna put it at the bottom of Tier 1.5. Are you happy now? Jokes aside, Dragon Link still isn't really that great right now. Their best end boards are usually Hot Red, a bounce with Tidying, and a bounce with Spheres. And honestly, because, like I said, Chalice, Droplet, Dark Ruler, Lightning Storm, Imperm, all that stuff right now is seeing a lot of relevance. And so Dragon Link really has a bad time right now because of all that stuff. And also, it can get nibbed really hard. It can play through nib, but nowhere near as good as it used to with things like Elpie. It can play through singular hand traps, granted. It can get through Imperm and Ash pretty easily, and their end board isn't the worst. However, there are so many more decks that can make a better end board when they go off fully. And my biggest thing was also that this deck has almost no follow-up plays. You have Rocket Synchron, which can net you a Synchro. Cool. Yeah, what are you gonna do after that? And you have things like Levianeer. This deck burns through its resources, especially through the extra deck, and the main deck, actually, very, very fast. And in the main deck, there is literally, other than Levianeer, there is literally no boss monsters you can really play. At least none that can break a board after your opponent Dark Rulers yours and makes you a bitch. Oh yeah, also Rocket Tracer is follow-up, but again, level 8 Synchro, what are you going to do after that? If it had more follow-up, because follow-up is incredibly important right now, because most of the time it's make a board, get your board broken, they make a board, and then you gotta break their board and make another one, or try to OTK them after that. Because this deck struggles to do something like that, because if their board is broken, which, trust me, it's very easy to break the board if you have any sort of out, I'm going to keep it in 1.5. It is doing pretty mediocre on YGO scope compared to a lot of other decks. I'll put it above tier 2 because I don't want to get yelled at anymore. But to the people that said it was in top 3 or even top 5, eat a dick. You're wrong. Dragon Link is in 1.5, and I'm not willing to put it any higher. Next up is Salamangreat, and I know it won the extravaganza thing or the remote duel, whatever. I'm not putting it above Rogue, dude. There's no way this deck is that great. Literally, I was watching the matchup against the Bird Up player, which I believe the Salamangreat player won, and he won because the Bird Up player didn't use his Zeus. He literally just sat on Zeus and refused to activate it for some reason. Like, the Salad player was like, Jack Jaguar, Spinny Gazelle, blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, okay. Yeah, alright, that's fine. Like, you have a Zeus. And I think he had a Roar face down, but I'm pretty sure he outed the Link monster. And so, does it really matter? Like, genuinely, Salad is not too great right now. If you hit the starters, they just kind of shit themselves and cry and whatever. So, I'll put it above stuff like Dinosaur, I guess, just because it did win the extravaganza. But I will not put it any higher than this because, sorry, Salad players, your deck is ass. Next up is Beetrooper, and I really want Beetrooper to be good. However, the new support only had like 2 relevant cards you play, like 1 or 2. And so I'm going to put it at the bottom of tier 2 for now. And again, I really do want it to be good. Like, I know it has some pretty solid 2-card combos, but the end boards themselves aren't really too powerful. You have their Infernity Barrier, Flying Sting. You have Papillon, which I believe is a special summon. And then you have, like, I think that's, like, I think it's mainly just disruptions that you have. You don't really have, like, too many, like, end board things, quote-unquote, because they do lock you into insects, which kind of sucks. Like, what was the point of that? Like, even if they didn't lock you into insects, you'd probably still be, like, better at Adamancipator, and so, I don't know, it was just really weird for me, because I wanted the deck to be a lot better, and I did some playtesting with it on my own. However, it's just really not, like, too great. I hope they don't completely ignore it like they did some other TCG exclusives, and I really hope we do get, like, at least one more wave of Beetrooper support to, like, you know, actually make it good, because the last stuff was really lackluster. However, for now, I'm gonna have to put it in the low tier 2. Very unfortunate, very sad. I'm sorry, Beetrooper players, but that's just how it is. And then finally, Guru Control. I don't even know why this is still on the list. This deck's not doing anything, even with Phoenix Enforcer. I'd argue Dragoon is better in the deck. And I'm gonna delete this next tier list because it's really just irrelevant. But anyways, guys, that's going to have to do it for the tier list and the video. Tell me what you think about it in the comments below, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Remember that this is based partially on YGO statistics, partially based on personal experience, and partially based on personal opinion. And so keep that in mind when you go to make your rage comment about your deck not getting the right spot, or the fact that I'm missing a deck, and obviously the fact that you probably skipped to the end and then didn't hear any of my reasonings. I keep that in mind. Do not attack me or any other Yu-Gi-Tuber that makes a tier list. There's really no reason to. It's literally just personal opinion. If you want to make a tier list, then make your own tier list. Go ahead, because this is my tier list and I'm sticking with it. But if you did like it, please sure to leave a like on the video, as it helps put this video and the channel into YouTube recommended. And if you really like this video and like content like it, I've been making a lot of tier lists lately. Perhaps consider subscribing because it supports the channel more than anything else, and it's completely free. We've been on an absolute roll in terms of subscribers. We're at like almost 550, and so overall we're at like a really good spot right now, and we're trying to hit 1,000 by next May. And so please sure to subscribe, hit that big red button down below if you did enjoy, and if you agree with my tier list. Maybe if you didn't agree with it, tell me in the comments below why not. Remember to be civil with myself and others. And for now, that's gonna do it for the video, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.